Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Spooky Southcoast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa and science advisor Matt Moniz. Stephanie Burke is off tonight. She'll be back with us next week. Just want to let everybody know one quick thing, too, before we get into our discussion with our guest, Danny BigBeard Roberge. If you would like to watch a live ghost hunt happening tonight, immediately following Spooky Southcoast. It's actually going on right now, but you're watching Spooky Southcoast right now on Spooky TV. But if you want to check out a live ghost hunt afterwards, just go to the Wheatlands Plantation Facebook page. That's Wheatlands, Wheatlands, Wheatlands Facebook page. Hit the Ustream channel, and it'll take you right to the live stream, so you'll be able to watch the ghost hunt that's going on there. I've done a lot of research into Wheatlands over the last few months, and been talking with the owners, including Richard, who let us know about the live ghost hunt tonight. So, and as well as a number of paranormal investigators who live there locally and have been checking it out. Can't tell you why I've been researching it, but you'll find out in the next few months. But if you want to see what goes on with Wheatlands, and simply go to their Facebook page, hit the Ustream button, and you'll know what's going on. All right. Now, let's get right into the discussion with tonight's guest. You know him if you are a paranormal investigator. You've probably talked with him on Twitter. Maybe you've even debated him on Twitter. That happens from time to time. He's the creator of many apps under his company, BigBeard Studios, including the SpiritVox and the EchoVox. We'll bring him on right now, ladies and gentlemen. We have joining us Danny BigBeard Roberge. How are you, Danny?
Good. How are you?
Oh, we are spooktacular, as we say here.
Good, thanks for having me.
Now, we got to get this out of the way first, because my co-host, Matt Costa, he's related to a lot of Roberges, and you're pretty local, right? I don't know if you want to give away where you live on the air.
Yeah, I don't know, man. No, I'm in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Yeah, so see, he's not that far, so I don't know, Costa. Sorry, I put up the wrong mic.
Okay. All the Roberges I know are from Framingham.
Oh, okay.
So.
You're not in relation to the Framingham ones, are you?
You know, I guess if you go back far enough, right?
Maybe, yeah. Who knows?
So I first came across your work a couple of years ago, and back then the SV1 SpiritVox was still the original app that you were out there discussing all the time, and that was something that already got a lot of attention. And I know that in recent years the EchoVox has become kind of the go-to device for a lot of paranormal investigators. What made you start putting together all of these apps?
Kind of out of it's kind of a long story, but to make it short would be, I just kind of saw a lot of people using I've always been interested in that type of communication as far as radios, ITC, EVP kind of phenomenon, and I thought I kind of think that ghost boxes and spirit boxes, I think they work. But I think they're flawed. A lot of radio interference over them. So when I hear a ghost box session, I hear radio DJs and Elton John songs. You know, so I wanted to take that out of it. You know, it's the same idea as using random noise and so on instead of something radio based. So it kind of went with that. You know, to take that whole question out of it.
And so what was involved then with being able to do that? I mean, I can imagine that you're using somewhat of what's been done before as a template, but you want to eliminate those things. So you have an idea of how you want it to work, but how do you hands-on get that to actually happen?
Experimentation, I guess.
Was it a long process? Was it something that came to you pretty quickly?
Well, I mean, it's still going on. So, yeah, I mean, the idea came to me pretty quick, and it kind of happens with me like that, where it just something will pop into my mind, or I'll get some, you know, idea for an experiment or something, and it turns into something. I mean, that's how EchoVox came about, was me goofing around in my bedroom at 4:30 in the morning trying to talk to dead people, and it ended up working, you know, so.
Well, if you look to it at a lot of the things that you work on, I mean, it's not just paranormal things that you have the apps coming out of BigBeard Studios. You have a lot of other things as well. Is this something you've been doing for a long time?
Yeah, well, it started out with doing expansion packs for an app called Caustic. That's an audio, it's like a sequence program for making music, and I just used that that as a platform to get some sounds out, because I was just really into, it was kind of like a hobby, I guess. I was really into that software. I was using it to make music and stuff, and so it just, and then I happened to have the idea to make SpiritVox while that was already going, so I just kind of put it up. And when I put up SpiritVox, it was just an idea, just a total experiment. It cost like $2. It didn't do anything except for make noise, which was, the basic idea, but you had to use another device to record on it. And the sound at that time was a pretty basic white noise. And but people started getting hits through it, and I hadn't even really experimented with it a lot until other people told me, well, this happened, that happened, and I'm hearing their recordings, and that's when I started to go and use it out a lot, and that led me to down the path of making other stuff.
So I assume then that the paranormal was something that you'd been doing for quite a while before you even created this app.
Yeah, I mean, my whole life has been kind of had it involved one way or another, and I felt kind of sensitive, I guess, my whole life. I didn't realize it when I was younger. I guess I thought it was normal, and then I now and at my age and dealing with everything that I come across in this field, I notice that I'm very sensitive. So it's always been that way.
And so are you able to communicate yourself in other ways without having to use these apps? Do you seem to feel that you can make a connection without having to use another device to be the intermediary?
I think in certain ways, yeah. I mean, I know that I can definitely feel body sensations when certain types of energy is near. I know that I've had projections, I guess, is the best way to get things projected into my mind. It happened to be at Pennhurst, where it was like watching a movie, and it wasn't my imagination. It's hard to describe, but it was almost like dreaming while you're awake. And in the last, I guess my whole life, I've been able to see things, and it's weird to say that, because I don't mean I can see, the ghost of a little girl standing there with a dress on and she's holding a teddy bear or something. I just see things like shapes or shadows or something, and they occur. For example, they were around a lot last night, and last night was a very active night. A lot of people investigating, and a lot of people out there using my stuff, and I kind of feel kind of a strange energy bounce back from people using it. So.
And I see what happens, on your Twitter, on your Facebook page. People will be using them, and they'll be sending you stuff that they're getting pretty much in real time, because you have the ability on these devices to record, on these apps to record, and then they can just kind of quickly upload it to you. So you're getting to see, the real-time field application of these pretty much every night.
Yeah, and, if you think about it, it's probably the largest coordinated paranormal experiment that's ever happened.
Right, because if you look at all the other devices, you never know, who's using what, and there's differentiation between them all. Some people use a tri-field EMF, some people use a K2, whatever. They have all these different devices, but if you get enough people running the same app at the same time, have you had a lot of instances where people have actually had the same results happen in different locations at the same time?
In a weird kind of way, yeah. There is a thing that's been going on for quite some time, and it doesn't just involve EchoVox. It's also come across on ghost boxes and other means, but it's the name Bridget, and her name comes up all the time. And usually along with Bridget is evil and Bridget's a demon and whatever any of that means, I have no idea, but it's come across from everywhere, all over the world, and it's just one of those things. And then also John Miller, who's a guy I've been working with him for years, and he's been using EchoVox since the day it was created or whatever, and he was one of the first people to actually use it. And him and I used to do Skype sessions back and forth where he'd be running it at his place and I'd be running it at mine. And we had a couple instances where they synced up and were making the exact same sounds at the exact same time and saying the same things, which is mathematically absolutely beyond impossible.
Right,
so, yeah. And we also had millimeters matching up, and and he's in Illinois, and I'm in New Hampshire. It's really weird. And we also had a couple other investigators at the time that were doing experiments with us, and we plotted everybody out on a map, and there's 5 points, and you put the 5 points together. It's like from New Hampshire to Toronto to Illinois, down, I can't remember the bottom two, but if you look at a map, it should make sense and come to me. There was a big pentagram. It was pretty wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I like about it is that it's something that people can utilize. It's relatively easy for anybody to get their hands on. It's not like you got to order it from from a Ghost Mart website or something like that. It's something that everybody can get their hands on. They've already got the devices that they need to run it. But that also leads to the question that I'm sure a lot of people have of how can you take cell phones, tablets, things like this, and put them to use for paranormal investigation without anything getting in the way?
Without getting in the way, how so?
Like like if I have an EMF app, for example, on my phone.
Oh, you mean like interfering with?
Yeah, but people are fundamentally skeptical. I think more skeptical of something that's on their cell phone than they are of something that's in their hand.
It's really silly because if you think about it, your iPhone or your Android is so space age, and it's just wild that we all have these touchscreen supercomputers with cameras built into them and sensors and fingerprint scanners. They're in our pockets. And we don't have a more powerful piece of equipment on us. Like, my millimeter is just a really stupid computer that only does two things, And you get more sophisticated, use something like a DMX meter or something, and even that is the guts of a cell phone put into a box. So your cell phone is a computer. It's, a really fast computer with all sorts of sensors built into it. So we'd be kind of stupid not to use it. And to not interfere with other stuff as simple as putting it in airplane mode, and then you're only dealing with the tiny little bit of a magnetic fluctuation from the actual electronics in the phone, and that's not a big deal at all. To be honest with you, I work all the time with my phone just on. I mean, I have a million EchoVox sessions where you hear me getting text messages and Facebook notifications, and it doesn't matter because that's not what I'm after. Doing audio work, so I'm not totally worried about that. If I'm working with other people, then obviously I'll be courteous and shut it into airplane mode. But no, I mean, there's no reason to be skeptical when you understand how it works. And EchoVox is all based on real-time audio recording. That's how it works. That's what it is. And it's a very simple concept. It's not. And then when you hear the thousands and thousands and thousands of sessions that are out there where people getting intelligent answers, different voices, different dialects, it's kind of beyond debatable if it works or not. If you take the time to look, and if somebody wants to sit there and say that everybody from, say, like TV's Fact or Fakes, Bill Murphy, has been a huge supporter of mine since day one. He goes to seminars and just tells people all about it constantly on his events and demonstrates it, and I've always been so grateful to him. But you go from him down to even the investigator that just started 2 weeks ago and already heard something that blew his mind. They can't all be liars. They can't all be wrong. Like, there's really something to it,
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we've had people who have come on some of our events first time out, and they're looking for just anything that they can do. So it's like, well, here, download the SpiritVox, download the SV1. You'll be able to jump right into it with that. And then it's funny because you'll see by the end of the night, a lot of people will start off by downloading that, and by the end of the night, they're starting to feel more comfortable. And before they leave, they're downloading EchoVox, which you can't really jump right into EchoVox.
No, and that's why EchoVox is $20. I mean, it's kind of, it's not priced so everybody will just impulse buy it. It's priced so, and I try to get it across that it's a serious tool. It's not, in all honesty, it should cost 10 times what it does just so less people use it. Because I would be super filthy rich if it was $2.99. Because millions and millions of people will probably download it fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really highly pirated APK. It's all over the internet. It's an old version because luckily I figured out how to make it so you have to download more sounds now because I added a bank B. So anybody that downloads the illegal version, the pirated version, you don't get bank B, and to me that's the guts of it. I don't even hardly use bank A anymore. I'm always in bank B. So
yeah, what I found was the most interesting about it was somebody. All right, full disclosure. Let me just put this out there. I use the Go speaker when we do our Legend Trips events.
Mm-hmm.
I will turn that on, and as much as I feel it's annoying, I have an Android. I can't download the iOvolus app that everybody's asking about because Bill hasn't made one for Android. So I download the Go speaker, which I know is cheesy, but also it works on the same concept. So I'll run that. And it doesn't take long before someone says, I'm pretty suspicious of this. These words can all be pre-programmed to come up at certain times. There's a reason why you hear axe, then murder, then kill, all three in a row, because it's programmed to do that. I'm like, all right, fine. And I'll pull out, EchoVox, and words will start to come through, and people will think, well, those words are pre-programmed. I'm like, well, if you think they're pre-programmed, hold on, let's not investigate anymore. Let's just run those little bits of recorded voice and let them go and see how often you can pick out a word. Not an investigation setting. Just listen and tell me how often those words come up, or how often any word comes up, and people will be amazed by that, by the fact that it is just a bunch of sounds, until you start to utilize it in the right way, and that's when it starts to have things come through. So anybody that's skeptical, it usually doesn't take too long before they start to change their mind.
Yeah, sure, I see that.
Now, when you were creating the original SpiritVox, you said that you wanted to make some improvements upon the way that the ghost boxes had been working. So what in particular did you do to make this different than the Frank's boxes that we've been seeing coming down the pike?
Well, I mean, it's not radio-based whatsoever. It's just based on random noise. And then now that it has recording built in, it's based on the idea of, a mixture of how you would use a ghost box and EVP recording. So it's a whole lot, and that's a big difference between the SV1 and the EchoVox. And SV1 is more of a hold it in your hand, make a lot of noise with it, talk to it, try to hear what you're hearing in the moment, and then go back and review for more of like traditional EVP, because it seems to very much enhance the capture of EVP. Aside from actual voices coming through the noise itself, a lot of times there's the whispers and all that kind of thing that we've become familiar with in the SV1 recording, whereas EchoVox is looping in real time for you, creating that noise bed. So a lot of times you hear those whispers and those type of EVP in real time.
And I'm sure that this has happened to you, but I've been doing some EchoVox sessions sometimes where I end up getting into an argument with the voices that are coming through. There was one place, we were in Minnesota at the Mounds Theater, and there was a constant female sound that kept coming through. And when you use the EchoVox, you hear all these different little clips of sound, but this female one kept popping up more often than not, and there was another spirit there that was trying to communicate with us. And finally I was like telling this female spirit, shut up, just stop. I don't want to hear you come through. And
I've seen it many times. I've seen it. I've had screaming matches pretty much with, I have the videos up on my YouTube. It's old, it's a couple of years old, but with a guy in my basement that was French and liked to swear at us a lot. And I had it out with him a few times, and I actually heard them argue with each other quite a bit as well, because a lot of times you could put EchoVox on and leave the room and record it, and things are going to happen. They end up talking to each other, which is the weirdest thing. So,
well, the funniest part about it was this guy that was sitting next to me. And finally, after I started yelling at this female voice, I'm like, you, the female, stop talking. I'm trying to talk to this other guy. You stop talking. And the guy looks at me, he goes, why do you think women are any different on the other side than they are here? That went over really well with all the women that were present for the investigation. But so you
Yeah, I have a lot of female followers. I'm afraid to laugh at that joke.
I think they'll let it pass because it was somebody else that said it. So now the idea with the original SpiritVox, the SV1, was to have the incorporation. Though you can have both the sound and the white noise, and you've improved upon that too with the EchoVox. Do you find sometimes that you are investigating with just purely white noise, or just purely the speech sounds, or do you always try to have a mixture of both?
I don't. If I'm using EchoVox, generally it's bank B, kind of slow, and I do that often. Like 3 channels slow and 1 3/4 of the way fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I experiment with other stuff, like recording the EchoVox session through a high gain microphone preamp, through a higher end microphone, kind of similar to the ones you guys are talking through right now.
Sure. Yep.
Through like a analog to digital converter with the preamps, just cranked to get the noise floor up really high, and then run the EchoVox, into that mic basically, and that's kind of achieved some pretty wild stuff so far.
So when you're listening to what's coming through on the EchoVox, and as you mentioned, it all has, you can change the speeds up of it. So when people are pulling out their little SB7 spirit boxes they ordered online, the little, it's basically a shack hack in a different body. When they're pulling that out and they're like, oh, look, I can change the sweep rate. I'm like, yeah, well, look at this. On the EchoVox, you can not only change, how fast one channel goes, but you can change how fast each one of them goes.
Right, but I think people are confused. There's no comparing EchoVox to really anything else. I mean, you can't achieve the results that EchoVox does without being digital. So you can't do it without having a microprocessor. So you can't do it without having a computer. So you kind of need your phone. You can't do it with transistors and tubes or anything. It's based on digital recording, and that's the entire idea behind it. So to compare one thing to the other it's completely different. They don't relate to one another at all. And then the results are I've never heard sentences come through a Frank's box. I've never heard really articulate speech come through, or heavy breathing, or phantom tanks, or any of the things that I've heard on EchoVox. So it's 2 totally different worlds.
So when you're first starting working on it, then, and you're first starting putting it together, I assume that you probably did a lot of home experimentation with it before you even brought it out to the field to make sure that everything was working, just technically correct. And then the first time that you actually applied it for paranormal investigation, I mean, what was that like? That experience?
For EchoVox?
Yeah.
No, actually, EchoVox was started out as I had SV1 first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came out with SpiritVox, which is just a real-time, plug headphones into your phone, you can do real-time EVP. And so one night I had the bright idea, for whatever reason, of, I wonder what happens if I don't plug headphones into my phone, if I use my little speaker here while the recording's going. And it created this insane noise. And I was at the time running an alternate version of SV1, which actually went on to become Spirit Voice, that went on to become the noise bed for EchoVox. But I ran them together through this echo noise and heard the craziest sounds that I'd ever heard up to that time, and I started talking to it, and it started answering me back. Now, the crazy thing is if you really want to hear the creation of EchoVox, the entire file is up on my SoundCloud. So you go to soundcloud.com/SpiritVox. There's a recording called, it's like 4:30 a.m. open echo, open feedback experiment, or something like that. It says 4:30 a.m., and that's actually the first EchoVox recording. And when you listen to it, there's intelligent replies all over it, and at one point there's a really disturbing, mean growl. So that's how EchoVox came to be. It wasn't through me having an idea and going out, and it was just a moment experiment. Just, hey, I wonder what happens if, and 5 minutes later it existed. So,
have you found that you have a lot of people who are Frank's Box converts who come over to use this and decide that, just like you, they need to eliminate the radio wave possibility and the interference that it brings?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people. EchoVox is addictive. I mean, so let's just admit it. Everybody that uses it knows that. You go out, you go on an investigation. It's like, I've seen it happen so many times. Everybody just can't wait to do EchoVox, because it's, it's exciting and it's fun, and it's not quite as dull as some other things, aspects of an investigation that we do. But I know a lot of people that threw away their sold their ghost boxes, but. Everything has its place. I mean, at Penhurst, we were running ghost box noise through the EchoVox Echo. So
I think part of the reason why Frank's box is starting to fall by the wayside a little bit too is I think people are looking at Frank and they're
Frank hates me. I just had it out with Facebook with him the other day.
I've seen that many times.
Yeah, Frank hates me. Whatever. I mean, I don't have any hate. Whatever. I don't know what his problem is, but he's a little bit of a strange, eccentric guy. So, and I wouldn't use the boxes just because they look ridiculous, and I could never take myself seriously using one. But that's as far as I go with that. I'm not going to bash anybody's work.
Sure, right. But I think a lot as he's been against paranormal investigators using his boxes, because he is. I mean, it's no secret out there to anybody that knows anything about Frank. He thinks that we are all a bunch of fools running around in the dark using his devices to talk to ghosts because he's getting warnings of doom and gloom from extraterrestrials, and that's what we're supposed to be paying heed to. So, I think because he feels that way toward people using them, a lot of people have said, well, okay, well, then I'm going to move on from this and move to something else. And audio being probably at least in my eyes, it's something that people can jump into the paranormal world and get involved with relatively quickly. Photography, it's such a crapshoot because there's so many different things that can be mistaken. Audio, people at least seem to have a general heads up of what's around them, and they can figure out pretty quickly whether they're getting a false positive.
Well, it's a lot harder to fake audio evidence than it is to fake photographic evidence. It really is. To do it convincingly and everything else, it's really tough.
And it seems too like the more the people get involved with it and they fine tune their ears to be able to hear it, the more that becomes kind of their go-to starting point for any investigation. At first, it sounds like noise, but if you know what you're doing and you're able to really tune in and figure it out, it's a good way to really jump off an investigation is to try and get that communication going so that you know that there's something there that you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yes, certainly.
One question I've always had for you about the Spiritphone, this is probably your personal choice or what you feel works best compared to what other people think, but I've always noticed that with the Spiritphone, which, as you said, allows for real-time EVP recording, you like to have that be something that works on virtually no delay, whereas some people would rather have a good delay or at least a considerable delay of 3, maybe even 5 seconds. What are your thoughts and feelings on whether or not you need a delay in real-time EVP recording?
Well, when it first came out, it wasn't in there at all, and it was actually Rob Damaris that asked me to put that in because he was going, where the hell was he going, to film a show in, I think, Malaysia or something, and he was going to use my stuff, and he really wanted to use Spiritphone. He said, gee, it really needs to have, I like to run at like a 5 or a 10-second delay, so I have time to, really listen. Myself, personally, if I'm doing like headphones in and like real time, I would do it with no delay just because I end up concentrating better, I guess, if I have to be on my toes and really listen when I finish. Because otherwise, 5 seconds, terrible ADD, and 5 seconds is a long time to me, and I'll go, oh, a squirrel, and not even listen to my own, question and answer. So for me, it's better to just do it in the moment and pay attention to it. And I kind of go into a zone anyway, like I would if I was playing music or something, and I'm really concentrating on what I'm hearing in my headphones. So.
And it's funny because I see people go to our events and they pull out a $400 real-time EVP recorder, and you see people that are never seen this before and see what they're doing and are jealous, like, oh, I got to get one of those. You say, well, listen, open up the App Store, and for
$2.
For $1.99, you can have the same functionality.
It's $2.
And I just don't understand either why people are hesitant to jump into the app-based investigation. I don't understand it, because I'd rather carry around my tablet than 45 other different things.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to fall by the wayside anyway as far as the stigma of using an app, because just so many people, I mean, the whole idea of, like, say, Spiritphone being $1.99 is, it's obviously, I got to make a living, but I want people to be able to put, on their phone, and everybody doesn't have to be an armchair investigator. They can actually go, well, I'm not doing anything tonight, and there's a graveyard down the road, and I need to exercise and walk anyway, so I'm going to go stroll around the graveyard and run my Spiritphone or whatever it is, and see what happens. And it gets people out, and it gets people interested. I've had people tell me it's brought them and their kids closer together, because they, will do this with their teenage kids. And a really good friend of mine really helped patch up him and his daughter's relationship when she was going through her, early teenage years. They weren't getting along, and their one middle ground was going to the graveyard and running SpiritVox. So, it just makes it so everybody can go out and use something that's, trustworthy and is not, something that Ghost Radar or something like that people just kind of scoff at. It's, there's people seriously using it, if they want to look at it for somebody they can, look up to that would be a quote-unquote professional or, paraceleb or whatever. There's plenty of them out there with, great reputations that use it and swear by it, so they can feel confident that they're using the same stuff that, the guy on TV used or whatever, and they know how to use it, and didn't cost them an arm and a leg, and when they're done with it, they still have their phone in their pocket to check their Facebook or whatever,
And these these apps, they don't really drain a lot of your battery either. I mean, I fully charge my tablet before I go on an investigation, and aside from spirit activity maybe draining some of the battery, but I'll run.
Oh yeah, they should run forever. I mean, they should really run. There's nothing in there that drains them. A funny story: we ran EchoVox at Houghton Manor in the big Masonic temple.
My favorite place to investigate. I love that.
Yeah,
place.
isn't it great? I love that place so much. And we were there running it, and it was just this like 3-4 hour long EchoVox session where I just left my phone and speaker. I went off and did other stuff, and people came and went into the room, and different people joined the session. But this phone was on like 8% battery when I left it, and 3 hours later it was deep in the, all it had was a red line. And the thing wouldn't die. It wouldn't stop. It wouldn't die. And the spirits kept saying stuff like, energy and batteries and just weird stuff that had to do with it. And the phone never died. I ended up shutting it off at the end of the night.
It's weird, too, that you mentioned using it at the Houghton Mansion, because the first place I ever used EchoVox was at the Houghton Mansion.
Oh, awesome.
Last year we were in Mary's room.
They know how to use it. They're aware.
And it was just an incredible night full of activity, and I had these apps with me the entire time. One of the things that I find the most interesting about it too is that when you utilize it, it looks like it has a very visual appeal to it. They all do, whether it be the old timey look of the Spiritphone or the SV1 or some of these other devices, or whether it be kind of the futuristic look of the EchoVox. There's also something to focus on too while you're hearing these things.
So I was a graphic designer for a lot of years. So I like doing that kind of stuff, and that was kind of besides making the noises, making the graphics is my favorite part and the most fun.
But I think that also is part of the reason why, and this is the dirty little secret, I think, of why a lot of folks are not jumping on the app bandwagon when it comes to investigating. Because if you talk to any of the TV people, the producers who put together these paranormal reality shows, they don't want to see you using your tablet. They don't want to see you using your phone.
You know what they love, and I've learned this, is the camera guys and the crews love EchoVox. Absolutely love it. They love the fact that results come out of it, and they've always got something to film, and they love the spinning wheel. It happened down in New Orleans. My buddy Chris was using it down there at the Hustler Club, of all places, a room full of strippers. Nice. And they said, where are we? And it answered perfectly the name of the hotel, and said it was haunted and everything. And the crew was flipping out. They were like, we want more of that. Let's keep running that and keep the camera on that. And the strippers seemed to be all freaked out and everything too. So I've heard of that a few times, where it's just, they absolutely love filming it. And Rob Damaris always tells me he's used it on a few shows, and he's always telling me the crews really enjoy having that around. It's never a dull moment, so in that respect, it's good.
And anytime you can investigate a strip club, you're doing well.
I guess it depends.
Yeah, no, it's because it's such a hard place to get into. They're very locked down with a lot. Because I know 2 haunted strip clubs, and they talk about it, but they don't want any kind of investigation of it.
Well, what this was the Hustler Club. The Hustler has a reality something. He's either on their website or a cable channel or something, and they follow the girls around as they tour. It's kind of a reality show behind the scenes. So Chris Mellencamp from NOLA was down there, Paranormal Society New Orleans, and a couple other guys. I think Kevin Betzer was there from Deep South Paranormal, and they just went there, and they got a call like, hey, we're here filming, we want you guys. It's a haunted, a famous haunted hotel in New Orleans, so they figured they'd get some paranormal investigators to come out for that episode of the show. So that's how it ended up being used on Hustler TV.
That's good stuff. Now, what is your personal favorite place that you've used EchoVox or SpiritVox or any of your...
Penhurst.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, Penhurst. I love Valley Street Cemetery in Manchester. I have a lot of great recordings and results there, but Penhurst was insane. Anybody, if you go to youtube.com and just search BigBeard Audio, you can find my YouTube channel. Just search under channels, BigBeard Audio, and some of the more recent videos, there's a few there from Penhurst. Look for the one that says EchoVox versus Penhurst, Electrocute, and that should do it right there. It's insane. It's just absolutely... I'd say, whose office is this? And you hear a voice, clear as day. You guys know EchoVox, so clear as day, you hear a voice say, Penhurst. And then they start telling me there's a bad man, and he hurts them. And it ends with a voice that clear as day says, Electrocute. And wow. People got shocked right there, electrocuted all the time. So
I know that sometimes with the clips that you get, words come through that aren't exactly able to be played over radio. That Electrocute clip, everything should be clean for air?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing bad in that. Yeah.
All right, well, give me 1 second, and we'll run that right now.
Great. Awesome.
I have like 45 different things running on my screen, but hang on. We'll run that. Here we go.
Whose office is this? Does it say Batman? Does it? Is it a bad man? Bad doctor? Yeah. Did he hurt you? How did he hurt you?
Wow. That is pretty incredible.
That was the guys from Generic Black Shirt Paranormal.
Oh, yeah.
Were in the room with me. Mike and Flip was in the room. and they'd never even heard EchoVox before, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, you listen to that recording, anybody that's listening to that, put some headphones on, and you'll really hear, we ask a question, there's not one voice saying yes, there's a few, and there's a few saying bad man, and they answer immediately. When you ask a question, they're right there. And there's 2 other recordings there. One of them's 30 minutes long. In a basement, we sing Itsy Bitsy Spider with them. It was just insane. We caught a light anomaly. My friend Greg caught this light shoot from behind me and fly out the door, and just as it flew out the door, there was a periscope on the floor, and the periscope lights up and follows it as it goes by. It was an absolutely incredible night. We were freezing. It was like 13 degrees in there or something, and it just didn't even matter. It was really something. I made it till about 1 a.m., and that was all I could do. I had to leave. I couldn't take it anymore.
Now, Moniz, have you been to Penhurst? Because I know our friend Melissa does a lot of work down there.
I was going to say, yeah, my friend Melissa Daniels works down there.
I know Melissa.
Yeah, she's a really nice girl. It's one of the places she took me by. When I was down hanging with her down there, there were so many places in Pennsylvania she wanted to drag me to. So
Melissa was actually in the hallway when that recording was happening. Actually, she was right around the corner from that.
She just had a recent experience in there where they called her name and they got it on audio too. We're talking audible voice, not just EVP. That to the point she turned.
It. You hear them when you're in that. I recommend anybody that can go. I mean, I feel almost it's kind of a double-edged sword for me because I kind of feel bad for the souls there that are having people come in and constantly talking to them, and I don't know if anybody's actually doing anything to help them. I tried a little bit, but I was overwhelmed by the end of the night. I'd never been so disgusted and appalled, and from the things that we're hearing. I mean, my last session there, I can't even post on YouTube. It's too graphic. It's too personal, and everybody that was in the room was just, our jaws were on the floor. That was it. Most of us were in tears and hugging each other and carrying each other out of the building, basically. That's how bad it was. And a woman got followed home because for some reason she decided that she wanted to tell the spirit of the little boy that we were talking to that he could come home with her because she had kids too. And, he did. So she didn't really have a good time with that. And she is no longer paranormal investigating because of that. So.
Yeah, it is pretty tough when that happens. I know somebody who came to a couple of our Legend Trips events and actually did end up getting plagued by something for a while. So luckily they were able to take care of it, but it can happen, especially if you're not careful.
Happens to me all the time.
Now, do you do any kind of, we were just talking about this at Lizzie Borden's last weekend. Do you do any kind of protection on yourself?
I do to a certain extent, where I have 2 charms that I wear around my neck, and not that the charms themselves mean anything, but I hold them in my hand a lot, and kind of charge them myself, so I kind of focus on them a little bit and say a little something to myself. But honestly, I feel like I'm probably one of the most spiritually well-protected people on the planet just because of my giant worldwide family of supporters that constantly support me and pray for me and help me out in like my personal life and spiritually and investigating and everything. So I have so many people that genuinely I feel like they really love me and respect me and send this positive energy towards me that I'm not really afraid of anything.
See, that's why I tell people all the time, if you feel like something can follow you and it's a possibility, then do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel better. I don't tell them that. I think if someone really wants to follow you, it's going to do it anyway.
Exactly.
I don't tell them that. I let them feel a little bit better about whatever protection.
They come and go. I mean, they come and they go, and in my life, they come and go very often, and it's to the point where you got to be nonchalant about it.
Well, I've noticed from some of your clips that you put online that you have to use your apps in your own home, and you have to try to make connections with spirits in your own home.
All the time.
Was that something that came about because you were experimenting with the apps and things came through, or are there other signs that there's a haunting going on?
Well, but that's also tough for me too because coincidentally, everywhere I've lived has had activity for the last couple of years.
Oh, I don't think it's a coincidence.
Exactly. So it doesn't really matter where I am, it seems. But I live with my girlfriend now in her house, and She's had the heebie-jeebies here a couple times, and the first time I was ever here, I was kind of like, oh, you have a spirit in your house. And I just kind of sensed it. I'm like, yeah, it feels like it hangs out upstairs, near the stairs, whatever. But it turns out there's something that likes to hang out in the kitchen, and it doesn't really seem to come in the bedroom a whole lot, but I've seen a couple of weird things, and definitely the EchoVox sessions. I haven't put any out yet from here, but the EchoVox I've been running here has been pretty wild. So those I'm gonna probably put some of those out in the near future. But those have been pretty wild. So I run it at home. I don't recommend to other people that don't know what they're doing to run it at home, just because you're opening yourself up to who knows what. But I mean, if there is something at your house, it's a good way to figure out what and who and why.
Sure, and it's a way to at least let them know that you're willing to communicate and that you're willing to accept that they're there.
Yeah, if you are. Because you never know who you're opening yourself up to. I mean, I think that we have something here that's a bit too fixated on Jen to the point where it kind of make her a little uncomfortable here and there, and that's something that we got to work on, And it's also her, because she doesn't come from this kind of type of background, so she doesn't know anything about, protecting herself from, an entity or whatever it is, so...
What was her reaction the first time she heard something out of EchoVox?
Absolutely speechless, because the weird thing is you guys will hear it when I do put it up. It says her name at least like 200 times.
Oh.
It just keeps saying Jen, 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 so many times. I've never heard it say a name so many times. And it was also answering other stuff, too. I'm like, well, I was cooking Chinese food in the kitchen. I'm like, what am I cooking on the stove? And it said noodles, and it's just on and on, a whole bunch of stuff. What did we eat last night? Brownies, and which we did. And it was a really good, solid session with a lot of intelligent replies, but something just saying her name so many times. Then we went on an investigation a few nights later, which was actually her first investigation, and we heard her name a bunch of times there, too. So it's one of those things that leave you scratching your head.
Now, are you working on anything new coming down the pike, or?
A Bank C for EchoVox, which is actually pretty much done, but it's too many sounds, and it's really killing phones that it's running on, like, making the app crash. So I got to sort the sounds out a little bit. SpiritVox SV1 is gonna, when you launch it, you'll be able to choose to run version 2 or version 3, so it'll be like 2 apps in one, because a lot of people miss version 2. So I'm going to put them together in one app. And then some other stuff.
Well, what's funny is I'm going to ask this question when we only have about 4 minutes left in the show, but we didn't really cover the idea of how EchoVox actually works, what it's doing when you turn it on.
Okay, well, you have the start and the echo button, right? That's the guts of it. And when you press start, you're not doing a recording or anything. You're just starting the playback on A, B, C, and D channels. And they play at whatever speed you set them at. So that's, part A of EchoVox. That's one half of it. Just random noises being blended in a circle.
Just little bits of phonetic speech.
Yep, just little bits of noises and speech, just chopped up. And whether it's Bank A or Bank B, it's just noise. And that's, one half of it. The other half is when you press the echo button. And when you press the echo button, it's not an effect. It's not like a guitar pedal, like Jimi Hendrix would use or something. You press on it and it changes the sound of the guitar. It's actually just a record button that starts a real-time recording, like the guts of Spiriphone, basically. But the difference is that recording is spit out into the air, which is then picked up by the microphone. It's then spit out by the speaker. That's then picked up by the microphone, and so on and so forth, and it creates an echo. Every time it comes out of the speaker, it's a little bit quieter. Every time it goes into the mic, it's a little quieter, so on and so forth. So it creates an echo effect.
But as you said, it's not something for the beginner to just jump right into. It definitely takes some knowledge, some experience with communication in this way, and then on top of that, it also takes some practice too. You got to find what works for you. You can't just turn it on and expect to get results. You got to tweak it and make it work with your energy as well.
Yeah, and use the users. I mean, if you go on Facebook and search EchoVox users, in groups. So we have a great EchoVox user group on Facebook, a couple hundred members. People post stuff every day from all over the world and answer questions before I can even get to them. So that's a great place to start.
And I was going to say, too, I don't know any app developer out there that's as approachable and easy to get in touch with as you. I remember when I first started researching this, you answered all of my annoying questions right away. So it's great that, you're not like the Flappy Bird guy and you've gone into hiding.
I try to be accessible. I really do. I try my best. I'm not perfect, but I definitely try as hard as I can to get back to everybody and to support my work as best I can.
And so if anybody wants to get any of the BigBeard Studios apps, you can get them from the App Store for whatever device that you use. And do you also have a central website as well?
I have a blog, SpiritVox.BigBeardAudio.com.
So people can check you out there. And, of course, they can follow you on Facebook at SpiritVox app.
Twitter would be at
Twitter,
SpiritVox
right.
app, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for correcting me there.
Yeah, no worries. You can find everything through my blog. There should be links to the YouTube channels and SoundCloud, and there's some other articles to read there. I have some theories that I've typed up there and some good reads.
Awesome. Well, definitely keep us up to date with things as they progress, and we'll keep watching the YouTube channel and checking out the SoundCloud clips as well.
And don't forget to have us beta test stuff for you, too.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys aren't that far away, so if you ever want to have me along for an event or something, just let me know.
Yeah, we'll definitely hook up.
From you.
We'll definitely hook up somewhere down the line. I want to get you and Lizzie Borden's in the wintertime when it's closed and it's just us.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Then we can run this stuff right, that's for sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Take care. That is Danny BigBeard Roberge. Check out all of his apps, SpiritVox, EchoVox, everything. It's all up there wherever you buy your apps, and I'm sure that people are downloading them right now. If you're a dad and you're a paranormal investigator, hey, why not tell your kids or your wife or whoever that you want, you want a little bit of a App Store credit for Father's Day. Get some of these devices. I can tell you that, when I use EchoVox on Legend Trips events, it's always a hit. I mean, there's always something that goes on. And as you heard from that clip that we played from Penhurst, when it comes out, it sounds incredible. So that does it for this week's show. We'll be back next week. Don't know if I'll be here or not, but there'll be a program. And I think that we're going to be doing pretty well for the rest of the summer. I know that we have July 12th will be the Murdoch Whitney House in Winchendon, so there won't be a show then. We always say we're going to record a show, but maybe we actually will. And also, we have Edaville, USA. Our Legend Trips event there will be taking place on August 30th. So if you want to get tickets to that, they are on sale now. You can get them from legendtrips.com. And really get them before they're gone, because I think this one's going to go pretty quick. I think people just like trains. That's part of it. And we've never really had the chance to investigate a place where there's trains and train memorabilia and cranberry memorabilia, so many things from Edaville's past right around there. And I can't wait to get in there. So we actually might go and do a little bit of a pre-event investigation. I haven't decided. I don't know if I want to get in there first and try and see what happens, or if I want to just leave it as virgin territory for the event. But we'll figure all that out, and we'll let you know as we go forward all the new hotel deals and everything else. So until next week, we want you all to stay spooktacular.